There we are. Right. I don't know if that looks good, or I don't know whether that's good or not. I don't know. I'm just playing around. Well, just trying to be playful this morning here on HR Week, day number 4. Aren't we getting through this week with lots of curiosity, certainly, and enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Our team's enjoying it as well. Hopefully you are as well. If you are, let us know. If you're not, don't let us know. Right, let's carry on now. So the culture of experimentation, delving into what it's all about, the ins and outs, and hopefully by the end of this, again, a little bit closer towards what this could actually mean for you, and how you can get closer to your better outcomes as well. Let's hear what this is all about, Expert Talk. So please welcome to the virtual stage right now. 2 people, Tim Bryant and Anna Stojanovic. Anna and Tim.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hi, Peter. Hi, everyone.
Good morning. How are you feeling this morning?
Excellent. It's midnight for me, but...
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
I'm in Portland.
You're in Portland?
Yeah.
Midnight, right. So let me just ask you, so other members of your family, are they sleeping now? What are they doing? Are they in bed?
Sleeping. They're sleeping, I hope.
You hope they're sleeping.
Quiet.
You hope they're there. Maybe they've gone out. I don't know, all-night party. We will never know.
Yeah, they may come.
Yeah, that's right. They'll probably, while we're doing this, they'll just come straight in with party hats. And anyway, and Tim, where are you, we wonder?
I'm based out of Sydney, Australia, so it's prime time for me, just coming up 7:30 p.m.
So literally, we 3 dots across the world. One side central, we're central, and you're on the other side. Wonderful! How wonderful technology is. Right, I'm going to leave it up to you. Towards the end, if there are questions from our audience, I'll pop back in and we can have a short exchange in terms of the questions. Over to you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Peter. So hi, everybody. My name is Anna Stojanovic, and this is my 3rd HR week, I think. This is the first one that I have this late, and it's all because of this gentleman, Tim Bryant, who is a dear colleague of mine. He's Chief People Officer now for, 2 weeks at Egros in Australia. And I have to say, so this is where the compliment comes. He is one of the top experts, at least in my circle of people, when it comes to implementing continuous improvement in HR. And so what I love about you, Tim, is that, and what I've learned from you, is that experimentation, continuous improvement is not something that you do additionally. It's the way you think, and it's the way you get to the problems, is the way you test hypotheses. And so I just thought it would be wonderful for our audience to hear from you on the topic. So welcome.
Thanks, Anna. It's great to be here. Great to see you.
You too. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what is culture of experimentation to you, and why is it important? Why should it be important to HR people?
It's a good question, right? And as you mentioned earlier, Anna, the continuous improvement's kind of part of my DNA. So experimentation's a component of that, of course. There's plenty of textbook kind of definitions of experimentation. It's not a new concept, right? But if I had to put it in my own words, I would say something to the effect of it's a process of accelerated learning and innovation to really reach your desired impact. And if I was to kind of how that shows up a little culturally, I'd probably say I'd probably characterize it in such a way where I'd say it's where being bold is celebrated and where risk-taking is normalized.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so why does it matter to HR professionals? And maybe give us some examples where you used experimentation.
Yeah. It's one of the things that at least through my journey, and I'm still on my own learning journey throughout my career, but one of the things that we continue to pick up is some of these other elements of what other parts of our organization do on a daily basis, right? So experimentation being one of those things, and I think about if I refer back to just the definition I shared, right? Accelerated learning. For me, this kind of takes you quicker to meaningful insights right? The humans are hard to predict, right? If you ask them one thing, and you put something down 6 months down the track, it may be completely amiss, right? And how often, I did it myself for a number of years in my own career, where I'd kind of come up and I'd say, hey, this is what we think we know the problem is. I make a whole bunch of assumptions. I go and lock myself away for about 6 months, come out with this great whiz-bang program, measure it for another kind of 3 to 6 months, and then it's like, oh wow, it's not hitting what we expected. Whereas the process in which experiment provides you is you can get to those kind of insights much quicker, and you can learn. And that kind of takes me into the next why, which is around that innovation piece, right? In this type of method, it really allows you to try more things, different things, unconventional things, right? Whereas in a typical methodology, sometimes it can take you 6-12 months to do these things, right? And you're potentially not innovating. You're potentially not you're not tapping into this creativity that's there with you and your teams, right? So there are a couple of the things, but outside of that, I would say, when you think about kind of some of the barriers that may exist within businesses, working in HR, I don't think it's a secret that sometimes it's hard to get buy-in as to why we feel certain different things are worth doing to the business, right? And it's usually when I present an idea in a temporary way under experimentation, you typically met with less resistance, right? So it is also a way in which you can ease your way into getting buy-in from businesses and business leaders as well.
And I've actually experienced that firsthand with you, working with you in our my current company, but your prior company. And it was always fascinating to me how you would get the president of the business where you work to really get on board quickly and invest. And so maybe I know of a few examples where I actually saw you in action, but maybe you can share with our audience.
Yeah, sure, of course. So maybe I step through a little bit around kind of the process, what a typical process of experimentation will look like, and then I can how that shows up in a real life example. So really, kind of four key steps in any experiment. The first one is identify the problem, right? Identify the opportunity, right? Second one being around brainstorming assumptions. This is where creativity kicks in, right? Where it's a great opportunity. It shouldn't be done in a room by yourself, right? That's
where you call me, right? And we brainstorm.
Yeah, exactly, right? Usually at midnight. So this is typically
this is like a typical way to work, yeah.
So usually this is where kind of you're really kind of coming up with all these great ideas, and you're thinking about which one you identify and you want to give it a try. And usually you look at it kind of in a few different ways. Desirability, is it what people want? Is it feasible? Is it viable? Right? And then you go into designing, right? The design element, and really what that's all about is creating a hypothesis. So if you think about a simple if-then type of statement, defining success, right? So this is, hey, we want to be clear about what we expect to happen and how do we know whether it's happened or not. And one of the things I really want to highlight is the idea of minimal viable product or prototypes. So this is not meant to be, hey, it takes you weeks and weeks to go and develop. This should be something quick, sometimes on the back of an envelope, right? A piece, a Post-it note, whatever it may be, that you can get some type of reaction, enough on the piece that gives you the audience, the intended audience, enough to know and have a reaction to. And then you execute, you look to implement. The most important step, of course, is reflecting and learning, right? So did you reach your desired impact? What did you learn, right? And the great thing about experimentation is you're learning whether you succeed in achieving your desired result or you don't, right? Because it takes you back to the iterate stage. Okay, well, hey, what do we think may work instead, right? And that's where you kind of get that innovation flywheel happening, right, as a result. So maybe apart from, let's stop talking about theory and start talking about what does that show up in practice.
I do want to tell you this, Tim. I remember when we were doing our first experiment few years back, and I think it failed. I think it like was good, but I mean, I was bummed, right? Like it's like, well, I had this really good hypothesis and it failed, and I think you were so excited that it failed because you got so many learnings, so that we can pivot. And I think that was, and seeing business leaders respond the same way to like, well, learnings are as important as experiment being successful, right? So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely
Absolutely.
appreciate
Right.
that.
Insights are good, bad or ugly. Right. So, if I step you through, and I picked a couple examples, let's see how we go for time here. Right. But, the first one was, just recently, in my previous business prior to joining my current role, we were going through some significant organizational change, and included things like workforce reductions, it included things like restructures and so forth. And one of the things that we had criticism about our previous kind of business leadership, our leadership in general, was, hey, we weren't necessarily showing up as genuine. We weren't showing up as maybe as inspiring as we could. We definitely relied heavily and over-indexed things like rationale and logic. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we said is, okay, well, I had a conversation with my business leader at the time, and I said, look, maybe it's time to try something a little bit different, right? And we have a great opportunity here and now. And we started brainstorming what that could look like. And what I came up with was it's a book by the name of Switch. It's authored by the Heath brothers. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. Get the Cliff Notes at least. Again, this is where the prototype comes in. We look at
I'll call you. You can give me a 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, right? We didn't read the book, right? We just read the Cliff Notes. That's minimal viable product for you, real life, right? And essentially what it led to was this kind of more kind of well-rounded way of communicating, right? How do you hit the logic, how you hit the emotional side, and how do you discuss the environment, acknowledge the environment? And so the hypothesis we had was that, hey, by implementing this framework, we would have the desired result of, coming across more genuine, more engaging, and hopefully moving through the change curve quicker, right, ultimately. And defining success, positive feedback. People felt really good, felt engaged about it. The prototype, like I mentioned, it was a dirty script, right? Bang, we did it in one workshop, had it up and running in about an hour. And we went to execute. The result, we had overwhelming celebration of obviously how it went down, right? And this is
not what went down, but how it went down, just to be clear.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And how and how well it was received, and that was really kind of, we didn't even prompt that. That was people coming to us and saying how well they felt the message was conveyed. And the more the importance of people were problem solving with us, they were engaged in the conversation. You didn't have these crickets, which sometimes you often get with change conversations, right? Yeah. So people will enter into the dialogue. So what we've done as a result of that experiment is we'll pursue it. We'll use that framework. We'll get smarter and better at it. Of course, we didn't do it perfectly, but that's not the point. And we'll get better at it, right? So that's something that's repeatable, and that business leader, I know for a fact, will continue to use.
That's awesome. How about one where it didn't go so well?
Yeah, I can see you've got a continuous improvement mindset as well. You want to know about the opportunity. So again, I think it's a really relevant example. The other one that I would probably call out here is, and as we are going all through this journey of hybrid work and what that means for each of our businesses, like a lot of us, we're experimenting whether we know it or not right now. With what works for us. What it looked like for us is we actually put a team together. We built out a prototype of a hybrid framework over the space of a week. And we essentially defined success in a couple of different ways. Nothing too kind of revolutionary. One was satisfaction from the employee. Did it improve things like engagement, retention? Managers felt comfortable with the framework. And we also, was the organization feeling effective? Was it feeling efficient? But the real the core of that experiment was really about self-organization. Did we feel we could have set it up in a way in which the organization could self-organize what hybrid work looked like for them? So really kind of very decentralized, high empowerment model of what flexible work looked like. The end result, as the kind of leading the witness here a little, Anna, was it didn't quite work. I wouldn't say it was a complete failure that we would say, look, we have to go swing completely the other way. But we definitely realized we had to pivot. And one of the things that we're looking at now is how do we provide more training to our managers? Along with, do we start thinking about having core days back in the office as well? So again, that's an example of where it wasn't, hey, a complete kind of mess, but it was an opportunity to learn and pivot accordingly.
And what really strikes me with all of these examples is, one thing throughout my HR career that I always, let's say, prided myself on was, that I'm very, let's say, human leader, like human-centric leader. And when it came to restructuring or things of that nature that were very hard for employees, my parameter was always that people can come out of it with their head held high and that there's that human element. So I knew that intuitively, but you defining this process where then any leader can actually implement, test, and then replicate is why I really liked working with you, but then you decided to leave it. So now I have to invite you to conferences.
But look, it's things like this where you show up, right? Like, and as you're at the whatever leadership table you are today. Even if you're not at a leadership table, you're engaging with you. This is the kind of level of, I guess, rigor businesses want to see, right? You're speaking the same language, right? And you're thinking about things in a well-rounded way.
And so if I'm sitting in the audience today and I'm thinking, well, this is really cool, I want to bring this to my to my business leader. How, as an HR professional, would they go about implementing more of this experimentation culture? What advice?
Yeah. Apart from just get started, would be my first piece of advice. Is you can over process, you can over engineer things, right? And your process is there just so it kind of helps guide you, but I wouldn't necessarily get bogged into it either. It's more of that piece around the mindset, if anything, right? But be bold, right? It's one of those things that when I think about, I think HR's come a long way, to be kind, right? But and there are still some businesses where we still practice things in a risk-adverse way, right? And we'd rather be cautious before we implement. Yeah. This really, it gets you to embrace the discomfort, right, and lean into it. But those that are leaders and then are going to be leaders, it's only a matter of time in this forum, is make it safe, right? Make it, lead by example, right? How do you enable that, right, in an environment such as that? The other piece is you and I and Anna have worked together, before, and one of the big things I like to do is make it fun, like yourself, right? And this should be fun, right? It's a way of getting the creative juices together. It's a great way of bringing the team together around brainstorming and innovation. So really think about making it fun as well. Don't get too kind of heavy and serious about it. Life's too short to be too serious all the time. And when I think about as leaders, again, probably point of advice is focus on building momentum, right? So start small. Think about experiments that you could do in an hour, a day, right? Small. It doesn't need to be big things, right? But it's more of a momentum thing with you and your teams to really kind of make it part of one of your muscles, right?
Fabulous. Fantastic. So I think we are right about time, right? We have 1 more minute left. So I just want to see if we have any questions from the audience. I don't know where we would see them. But how are you enjoying your new role, and are you bringing culture experimentation?
Yeah, one of the things I've actually done more recently as part of this is bring it into my philosophy of leadership, right? So as I introduce myself as a leader, my expectations on my team and myself and what they can expect coming up is really that kind of attitude around experimentation.
So you start with that, like from day one.
Correct.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so hello there. I'm just going to come in now. Unfortunately, no Peter, well, there is a question actually. As I'm saying that, someone's just wrote a question. We've got enough time for this one. Do you believe organization comes from having great people in the team, or allowing people are bringing good people in, allowing people to bring good people in? What's first? What would you say?
I don't necessarily know if there's a perfect order to it. What I would say is what we learnt through our experiences. Yeah, great talent, it always makes things easier. Let's all be honest about that. But the way in which you help enable new things, right? Whether it's self-organization in this example or other things, but helping people through change and what that looks like to be successful, I think is critical, right? I don't know, Ivana, if you'd add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, having a great talent, it makes it easier. But I do think that with experimentation, it's easiest way to bring everybody along, because of the fun element, of the fail fast element, and it's really a great team building space for people to feel comfortable to fail and bring their inputs. So.
Other than that, we're getting actually lots of comments of love coming through, actually. A wonderful topic. Experimentation is such a wonderful tool to help drive innovation in HR. Loved hearing both of your learning. So we're getting quite a few good, certainly good positive comments. People don't need to ask questions. They could just sit back, enjoy and absorb everything that you have. There is it's funny, as I speak, there's always these questions that come in afterwards. Another quick one now. Advice. What's your advice for HR in the startup world? So startups in HR, what quick bite-sized chunks of advice? What would you say?
I'm super excited for this question because it's the new company I've actually just joined is a startup, and one of the things that I'm finding from day one, I'm only week 2, but that from day one I knew there's less barriers to experimentation. There's more embracement, and what makes the startup environment even better is everyone's experimenting, everyone's learning what works for that business. So you're in the perfect business context to start experimentation immediately. Right?
Listen, Tim, Anna, we will have to now close this set again, another session that could certainly carry on and unfold for quite a long time. We're going to have to stop now and simply let Anna get to bed, I guess. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're a night owl. Maybe this is the start of your evening. Maybe, I don't know.
I think Peter, she's trying to work out whether she should be worrying about her family at the moment, like if they're in bed or not.
Well, number one, I think you should figure out where they are. If they're not at home, where on earth are they? I have no idea. Only you can answer that, or maybe they can. It's a mystery we'll never know. Right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Tim, and different parts of the world. We're in the center of the globe. You're on the other two sides of it. It's great to come together. And but most of all, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.